Recording now. Good day. Today is the first official episode of Pedal-to. My name is Phil Cruz. I'm waiting for the special guest to start my show off, the launch of Pedal-to with Robin Richardson, owner and founder of Happy Fiets, right? Hey, Robin, how you doing?
Exactly
Thanks for
right.
coming.
I'm good. Thanks, Phil. It's really nice to talk with you again.
I know it's been so long. And so we're talking about the last time we had the interview, you talked about how you started at Happy Fiets and how you ended up come from California over to Toronto and ended up going from cars to bikes and all. So today we're discuss more in detail about your company, Happy Fiets.
Okay, sure. So, um, for folks who aren't familiar, Happy Fiets is a bike rental service. And I specialize in the kinds of bikes that other bike rental shops usually don't carry. So I started with cargo bikes. That's still sort of my core business. And a cargo bike, for the uninitiated, is a bike that's designed to carry more than just the rider. So I like to say that any bike can be a cargo bike if you're stubborn enough. But say the bike on the wall behind you there, it's a terrific bike, but it doesn't have racks built in. It has a frame that's built to carry you and maybe a few accessories, but not a week's worth of groceries or a passenger or anything like that. So a cargo bike is specifically designed with heavier components and a different sort of design to the frame. Typically, it either has a cargo area out in front of the handlebars, or behind the rider, there's a built-in rack that's often a bit longer than sort of the standard rack you'd see on a city bike. And the goal is to be able to carry a kid or two, maybe an adult passenger, or whatever cargo you might want to carry in your daily life, whether that's your groceries or supplies for your job, or in my case, my two big rambunctious dogs, or any other kind of thing that you might want to be able to take with you on your bicycle. So cargo bikes are really promising as car replacements, even for families or individuals who still might keep a car for those really big loads or long distances that a bike just isn't practical for. A cargo bike can replace a lot of car trips, which saves a lot of money. Obviously, it is healthier for the person because they're out in the fresh air getting some exercise. And it's much healthier for our communities as well, because a bicycle poses much less risk to everyone around you. You're less likely to crash. And if you do, you're both going to walk away from it with just bumps and bruises. Whereas if you get hit by a car, you're probably not walking away from that. And of course, the impact on the environment is substantially lower because they're powered by a combination of leg power and electricity. So that's my core offering, are different styles of cargo bikes. I have expanded a little bit. So I now offer Brompton folding bicycles as well, which are great for urban dwellers because you don't have to worry about where am I going to park it. You can literally fold it up and bring it in with you.
Is that on is that on your website right now? Is it on your website?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I've
gotta
got
check
those
that out.
live
I
on
gotta
my
check it out.
website.
Wow, that's nice.
Yeah.
That was one of the standard folding bikes, like just the wheel collapses in half.
It folds sort of in three, like the frame is in the middle and then the wheels kind of overlap with the frame.
Okay,
So it makes
yeah,
a very
I see that. Yeah,
compact,
that's so cool.
almost like a square. They're super useful for people who want to commute but don't want to leave their bike parked outside all day, or might want to do a multimodal commute where part of it is on train or the TTC and part of it is by bicycle. And it's great for people who live downtown in an apartment or a condo and don't have secure bike parking. So it's kind of the opposite of a cargo bike, right? It's small instead of big.
That's
But
cool.
I'm looking to fill in gaps of, you can rent a standard bicycle lots of places, but there aren't very many places where you can rent a folding bike or a cargo bike. And then the last category I started offering last summer, and I'm going to expand a bit this year, is good quality children's bikes as well.
Nice.
I found that a lot of my customers now are people visiting Toronto from other parts of Canada or even internationally. And when they come, they often want to rent a cargo bike to carry their smaller children or a picnic or what have you. but they also want a bike for their older children to be able to ride on their own. So I've started adding that to my fleet as well.
Nice. Wow.
Because again, those are kinds of bikes that are hard to come by in the rental market. So I'm just trying to give people options and help them get around our city without having to rely on cars.
So your kids' bikes are more like better quality than like the ones you get at like a regular grocery store, like Walmart or whatever. Like your quality bikes.
Yeah, they're very high quality bikes, and I do that for a few reasons. The main one being that they're a lot nicer for the child to ride. So they're made out of lightweight materials and they have good quality components and they're very comfortable. They're the kinds of bikes that my own children rode when they were small. It's by a company called Frog, which is very
Oh,
cute. They have a
cute,
little
yeah.
froggy logo. They come from the UK and they're beautifully made bikes. They look like an adult bike, but small. And the other reason I have chosen to go with those bikes is that they are really durable and very repairable.
Oh, that's
So,
nice.
when you're renting out bikes, especially to kids who are going to do things like drop it instead of
Yeah.
remembering to lean it or use the kickstand, you want it to be very sturdy and you want it to be the kind of thing where you can fix little things that go wrong. Some of those less expensive bikes, while they have a very accessible starting price point, they aren't really repairable. They're almost disposable.
Oh, so yeah,
And
yeah.
that's a shame. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you pay a little more, it's just worth it, right?
Sorry?
So you pay a little more for the bike, but it's worth having the bike in the end, like rather buying a cheap bike and you had to replace it. Like Walmart, I did my bike trip a few times. I bought like three bikes in less than 2 years because they're just cheap disposable bikes. You can't replace so
Yeah,
much.
yeah, exactly.
I was thinking in the future about your bike, the folding bike. I was having a laugh. Said, one day in future, Robert, there'll be a folding bike that lifts in the air. The air, like a James
That would
Bond
be a
thing.
nice trick.
That'd be
Yeah.
cool, yeah.
Yeah,
So
my middle son is in love with flying. He is going
oh
to start
really?
pilot training this summer.
Good for him.
He's in
Wow.
Air Cadets. Yeah, no,
Oh,
he's
cadets. Yeah,
keen.
yeah, yeah. He's done the
Yeah.
glider. He's done the gliders yet.
He hasn't done it yet. No. So he's gonna start
Have you
this
ever,
summer. He's so excited.
you should take in a glider when he gets qualified. He go take it. You ever been in a glider yourself?
I have not ever been in one.
Oh,
No.
there's no sound when up in the air. There's no sound. It's all wind. Like you can just feel the whole thing moving. And it's
Yeah.
really small. It's nice, but it's really small. Especially when you come for a landing, you don't know how because there's no sound effects when you come like a plane. So when you hit the ground, it's like a bike. You just rough. But if you get the opportunity once he's qualified, I highly recommend going to the glider. You'll love it.
Oh,
Take it.
I will for sure. I can't wait to fly with him.
Oh my
It's
God!
going to be
Does it
wonderful.
want to be like an international pilot?
You know what? He actually wants to fly small regional flights.
Oh wow!
He's a homebody, which is a bit, it's funny. It's a little bit of a contradiction. He loves to be at home, but he's keen to fly. So he wants to do things like fly people to cottage country, maybe
Oh
do
yeah,
little
yeah,
regional routes.
yeah. It's a big business
But I
there.
said
Yeah,
to him, you're still a kid. You don't know what you'll want. Maybe
yeah.
someday you'll want to fly the big birds and go, across the ocean. He rolls his eyes at me. He's like, yeah, maybe. You know
Like
how it is. Parents don't know anything, Phil. Kids know it all.
yeah,
So
I know. I saw one of my friends. He was a airframe tech studying North Bay, and he ended up getting a calling to be a priest. Like total opposite.
wow.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
he's a
Life is
qualified.
interesting.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
Life is
Listen, I majored in English literature at university. I didn't think I would end up running a cargo bike rental company,
that's so
but
funny.
life
Huh?
takes in interesting directions.
I know.
Yeah.
Life is well. I say life takes so many turns, and one thing leads to another. That's what I always believe. I was gonna ask you.
Yeah. No,
I don't.
exactly.
I know nothing about electric bikes myself. I know how. Can you tell me how long the charges and how long they last, just for one of your bikes?
Yeah, sure. I mean, of course, it depends on the bike to some extent. For example, I have a bike from a company called Tern, Tern. It's called the GSD, and they design it to have two battery ports. So you can put a double battery on it, which gives you an unbelievable amount of range. So I usually think in terms of how far you can go rather than how many hours it lasts, because it really does depend more on the distance that you travel than it does on the time you're in the saddle, right? And that makes sense you know, if you think about it, even from just a human power standpoint, there's a big difference between riding 10 kilometers at a leisurely pace, which would take longer, but wouldn't necessarily require as much energy. Whereas if you were doing a 10-kilometer sprint, you'd be exhausted at the end, right? It's the same for a battery. So they typically have a range on a single battery of about 75 kilometers. Now, of course, that's impacted by all kinds of things. Very cold temperatures will bring the battery life down. That's true in an electric car as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, engineers just haven't quite solved that problem yet, although I imagine eventually they will. So in the wintertime, your range is depleted, but we don't have to worry about that today. It's beautiful out.
Oh, yes. It's funny, eh?
Yeah, it's incredible. Other things, you know, how much you're taking from the battery. So if you click up that power level to a higher power to give you more of a boost, of course, that drains the battery more quickly. If you're carrying an adult passenger, now it's carrying 2 people instead of 1. So of course that requires more power. And then lastly, if your route is very hilly or you're biking into a headwind the whole way, of course, that's going to take a bit more power as well. But for the most part, certainly for everyday riding, I find that the battery lasts all day, unless you're really doing like a bike touring kind of situation where you're on the bike for 8 to 10 hours a day, or some of our food delivery riders who really, you know, use the bike very intensely. They might run out of battery a little faster than that. But for an everyday user who's commuting or picking up their kids from school or doing their shopping, things like that, you're not going to run out in a single day. And then you just charge it up overnight and you're good to go again the next day.
So so you got 2 batteries. So is each battery can go 75 kilometers or 75?
So that's on that one bike. Yeah, I have one bike with the double battery, and yeah, that gives you a range of 150, or if you're using it lightly, you could go as far as 200 kilometers on a single charge.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I always say I'm going to get tired faster than the battery.
I know.
I could be in the saddle for 200 kilometers.
Let me go like a trip for like going to Montreal, like going up those hills in going up in the going east. Going east. And you know,
yeah.
You also people say there's a lot of hills when you're driving is different biking. You know, but like so when I did my bike trip last year, I was like down those hills. I used to walk my bike. I said, I'm saying I could use an electric bike right now, you know, just to go up the hills. You know.
Yeah. Well, a nice thing about electric bikes, Phil, is you can use as much or as little power as you want. You don't, in fact, have to use the power at all. If you want a workout or you're preserving your battery for a big hill you know is coming at the end of your ride, you can turn off the e-assist, and all of my bikes work with leg power as well. I typically use sort of a lower level of power, and I combine that with my leg power, and that's the sweet spot for me. But I'll tell you, there are days when I'm tired and I've done a lot of riding, or it's really hot out and I don't want to get sweaty. And I don't feel guilty just pushing that little button and giving myself a high power.
Great. Yeah, I love it.
I still pedal. None of my bikes have a throttle like a motorcycle. They're all what's called pedal assist. So you do still have to ride it like a regular bicycle and change gears and all that. But it just makes you a stronger rider, right? Like it takes your effort and sort of doubles it for you. So it's pretty great. Like I'm in middle age now. We'll leave it at that. But
what
I
is that?
don't have the legs I had.
I heard about that middle age.
Yeah, it's not all it's cut out to be. It's a little.
Well, I'll be getting it. What do you call it? Somebody call me. I'll be a junior senior in about a couple of months. So I'm just
a junior senior.
I said I'll be a couple of seniors that meet at the mall. We have coffee together. They're all like in their 80s and 70s. So I say, so here comes a junior senior going to be the mayor. This makes me laugh. So I'll be 60 in July. So you're saying middle age? Like, what is middle age? I remember that. It's way back.
Anyway, my only point about that is that I don't have the legs.
But you don't look middle aged. I thought you're like a young mother when I saw your kids.
Well, you don't look like a junior senior.
Well, thank you.
You know why? That's because all that biking keeps us youthful.
No, it's that night cream I use at night, you know. Keeps the
Oh, I'll have to get a recommendation from you.
Delon cream works wonders. But
No,
yeah,
Phil, listen, I've got 3 teenagers and my oldest teenager, it turns 20 next month.
oh
So
my gosh, I didn't
I
know. Wow.
appreciate you thinking I'm a young mother, but I don't think that's really true anymore.
Oh, but you have a young, must have longevity in your family because you got a young face. Like,
Oh,
like
well, thank you. I credit the bicycling. It
yeah,
keeps
good
me
health.
young. Once I get on that bike, I feel like a kid. I really do. And that's what keeps me going, even in the winter, you know, when it would just be easier to take a car or not go
Yeah,
out at all. I'm chasing that high of riding on my bike. You know how it is. Like
yeah,
when
because
you
you miss
take
it when
that
you if you
that
don't do a day with that.
glide.
Like, yeah, you kind of like I missed going that one day or whatever. You got to oh, if you got something like an appointment, you got to do the appointment. You'd rather go biking, you know, like I've done that before. You know,
Oh,
like it's just so frustrating sometimes. Like I'd rather go bike. I don't want to go to a meeting or whatever. You know, I was gonna
oh,
ask you,
yeah, I can relate
how
to that.
Robin, how fast can you go with the bikes, the electric bikes? What's the speed limit?
You know what? That's a great question. Because theoretically there is no limit. However, the federal government has chosen to cap electric bike speeds at 32 kilometers an hour.
Oh, okay.
Um,
So you can go faster than
and
that.
that's for the safety of the people on the bikes, as well as the other users of the bike lane and the pedestrians and things like that. So even though the motor is capable of giving more speed than that, the computer cuts the power when you get to 32. Now, if you can pedal faster with your legs or you're going down a big hill, it doesn't apply the brakes for you, right? Just like I'm sure you can go over 32 kilometers an hour on that bike behind you in the right
Not
condition.
at 60.
I don't know, you go down the Bayview Hill, I'm sure you could probably
Oh
hit
yeah, yeah,
60.
yeah.
So, but the power won't assist you anymore past
Okay.
32
Yeah.
kilometers an hour.
I was gonna ask you.
So
I was gonna ask. I don't know if this is. I was thinking just now talking to you, but okay. So you're in your bike and the batteries die. Is there some sort of a service where you can like call a number and say I need a battery backup? Do they have that available yet or is existence?
Well, I have never heard of one, although that would be great. People who rent from me, I could
Mhm.
certainly come and help them out with that. Yeah, as
I
long
just
as they're within
I just
my
thought about
range.
talking to you about that. Just that, like, you know, like a taxi, like a breakdown. Your car break, your bike breaks down, so I need a battery backup, 24 hour. Like I could see like little setting all your little areas, you know, like in the future, whatever. Like you know, battery backup. Robin's battery backup.
It's a great idea. Now, the way it would work for an e-bike is that I would have to have a duplicate battery
Yeah,
that was fully charged. I would ride it out to the customer. I'd remove the depleted one and put the new one on, and they'd be good to go because there's no roadside jump like there is for a
yeah,
car.
yeah. That's what I mean.
Um,
Yeah.
right now, all but 2 of my bikes, I could actually do that right now. 2 of my bikes have a battery shape that doesn't match anybody else, so I don't have backups for those. But the others, I could do that, and that's a nice service. I should think about adding that when I'm talking about what I offer.
And I can save you money. You got 3 kids, get them working.
Oh, believe me, they do. They
Yeah,
already help me. Yep, yep. It's
I
a
mean,
family
funny.
business.
24 hour Robin's kids available. What do you?
Well,
Mom, I gotta go to school.
I have done some roadside flat fixes and other little things like
Yeah,
that. And worst case scenario, if there's something with the bike that I can't fix on site, typically what I will do is I will bring them another bike from my fleet that's set up similarly, and I will just give them that one, and then they can get on with their day, and I will take the other bike away and take it to my favorite repair shop at Curbside Cycles and have them work their magic.
you probably have to like a limited range of where you're gonna go. Like somebody's Pickering saying, I'm in Pickering, Robin. I need a bike, bike boost or whatever. You know, you're like,
We would have an issue.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that would be challenging. I typically say that my delivery area is the city boundaries.
yeah.
I have occasionally brought bikes outside of that if I happen to have the time free in my schedule, but I do try to keep my delivery area within Toronto. That said, there's nothing to stop a customer. I have had people drive in from Guelph and from Hamilton and a couple of other places to pick up a bike and then take it back with them and use it where they live. Someday I would love to have Happy Fiets or similar businesses in a lot more cities. I'd like to be able to use them myself when I go visit places. You know, my daughter goes to Carleton in Ottawa, and I wish that I could rent a cargo bike when I went to visit her.
Oh, that's so
Um,
nice.
and hopefully someday that will be the case.
Ottawa, yeah, yeah. My fiance used to live there. She's taking a radiation therapy course. What a
Oh,
confusing.
great.
Yeah, what this is years ago. It's confusing getting to Ottawa on the highway. You got to go under the Smith Fall. You got to go under the bridge. It makes these weird directions to get back on the main highway to go to Ottawa. It's weird.
Yeah,
I never
driving in
actually.
Ottawa is very
It's
stressful.
it is. It is. It's more than Toronto. I found like I remember going to you got to
Yes,
go to Smith Falls. You got to go under the bridge and then get directions under the bridge around the corner and you go. Then they're gonna there's no main connection to the main highway going to Ottawa. With maybe they fixed it by now, but just it's so confusing.
yeah, it's
nothing else.
confusing, and the road surface is in terrible shape, although
Oh
that's
yeah,
true here
yeah,
as well. And I mean, I'm sure if you live there, you get the hang of it, you know your
yeah.
routes and things. But for somebody visiting, it's very difficult to find your way around, and people drive fast in Ottawa. Oh my gosh,
Mhm.
there's not a lot of patience for out of towners who are trying to
No,
find
no,
their way.
no. Get out of there. I know. Even the buses drive fast there. You know, they're hogging it. Get out of the way. Like over here, right? I was gonna ask you. Uh, are your prices on your website for your bikes?
They are, yeah. My
Okay.
prices are on the website, and it is a little bit different for each bike because of maintenance costs and initial outlay and things like that. I also offer a weekly price for each of my bikes, which is equivalent to 3 days. So once you've kept it for a few days, you might as well keep it for the full week because
Mhm.
you've already kind of paid for that. And the reason that I do that is I really want to encourage people to try it out for a longer period of time because I'm secretly trying to convert them. And
Oh,
what I really want is for people to experience it
well,
with
it's
a rental
kind of like a biker
and then
system.
think, I need one of these for myself.
Yeah, I
The
know.
thing that makes me the happiest is when one of my customers sends me an email a week or two later and says, I can't do without the cargo bike. I went
Sounds
and
so
bought my
nice.
own.
Oh, I love it.
Um, and the reason for that, Phil, is not just that I'm a pusher, but I firmly believe that every time we put a new cargo bike or any kind of bike on the road, it makes all the rest of us safer,
Yes.
right? Even if, like I said earlier, it's only a part-time thing, even if they still drive for most of their trips,
Yeah.
each time someone chooses to bike instead of drive, that's less pollution into the atmosphere, that's less danger to everyone around them. And the secret third thing is that person becomes very aware of the hazards that cars and trucks pose to cyclists and pedestrians. And what I find is that people who ride regularly almost inevitably become safe streets advocates.
And the
So they
fourth thing
become,
is, they increase their health because of you.
well, they increase their own health for
Yeah,
sure.
that's right. Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, but they also increase everybody else's health as
yeah.
well.
I love
Right.
it.
So that's why that's why I started Happy Fiets, was just to try to help more people see that biking is a really viable alternative to driving in the city.
Yeah.
And try to help more people do that.
I'm gonna ask you. You know, it's funny. I bike around, and before I met you, I never even thought about electric bike, and I've heard about, it, but I'd have to go to my way to go get one, right? So
Mhm.
like, is like for you, like you have a website there and all that available there, and you have a store right now, or you're getting a store, or
So I have been in business now for 2 years, and I run sort of on a virtual model. So I have the website, but I don't have yet a physical location where people can come and see the bikes. I would love to do that. I don't know if you've heard, Phil, but rent in Toronto is kind of expensive.
oh my gosh, jeez, tell me about it.
So far, Happy Feet is still in the startup phase and doesn't have quite the revenue, hasn't paid off enough of the initial
No,
investment
no, no.
to pay rent on a retail location, although I would love to do that down the road. So right now my model is when somebody wants to rent a bike, I bring it to them, whether
Okay.
that's at their home, sometimes it's at a hotel or their office, wherever it's most convenient for them to receive the bike. And then I give them a little lesson on how to use the bike. And at the end of the rental, I come back and pick it up from them. So it's very convenient for the customer. They don't have to figure out, well, how am I going to get the bike home from the shop? Or that location isn't easy for me to get to because I come to them.
Okay. So
Um,
you answered my question. I was going to ask you so the order of the bike on your website. how do they get it? So you just answered my question. So you deliver.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
I
great.
deliver. And last year I invested in a wonderful trailer made by a German company called Carla Cargo.
Was that the picture on
Um,
the website? Is that the
uh,
picture? Yeah, I think it was
I
a,
think there's some pictures of
yeah.
it on the
Yeah, I
website.
think,
Yeah,
yeah.
it can carry one or even two other cargo bikes,
Oh,
or
nice.
several non-cargo bikes. So that has really made things a lot easier for me. I'm able to use one cargo bike to deliver another one.
And bring one
Um,
and come back.
yeah, exactly
Yeah.
right. So that's my model for now. But yeah, someday I would love to have a shop. So I
Yeah,
guess
it's
we'll just have to see how things go. And maybe we'll get a mayor who will do something to make rent more affordable in this city. Wouldn't that be nice?
oh, yeah. Then but go there, yeah. I can that's we'll talk about the election. Yeah, you
No,
see
no,
my
I'm
plan.
not talking about the election. Nope,
Oh,
absolutely not.
no. But it's true. Rent is expensive. Like just for even a small area, like the mall over here, the parking mall, like the stores at just regular size, $8,000 a month to rent one area. And they're not getting a
Yeah,
lot of business. It's ridiculous, and there's no
yeah, yeah,
incentives, whatever, and that's just greedy. I think if I think with the COVID, what they should have done is they should have put stipulations of reducing the rent first of all, and uh, and cater to the people in need, like you, if you had a reduced rent and give an incentive with the government, where you pay into it, but you're also providing a service that's also for green living. The government gets a kickback, gives it back to you, goes back to the environment. That's what they should have done. That's what I think.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's right. I think that there should be supports for new businesses and independent businesses, because
Yeah,
what we often see, I mean, anybody who lives here can see it, is, a new building goes up and it has retail on the ground floor, and it's just the same few players every time. It's
yeah.
Shoppers Drug Mart, it's a
Oh yeah,
dentist, it's a bank. And those things are important, but we want diversity in our
I
neighborhoods. We
know.
want mom and pop shops. We want interesting little stores that sell something other than the same corporate stuff that they have 5 blocks over, right?
That's yeah.
And right now it's very difficult for those kinds of businesses to make a go of it. And I think our city would be so much more livable and equitable if we did offer some supports to those small businesses. So
Even the
I
even
agree
the pa-
with you
even the
100%.
patios, Robin, the patios, like now they
Yeah,
raised the price. Having a patio for your restaurant or they just said they had less people paying for the patios than before because they raised the price. To me,
yeah,
I think it's just ridiculous because first of all, you're a biker, I'm a biker, I'm a driver. We're already driving on city property, so what's the big difference than having a patio there, right? You're just occupying a space, right? So if you're having an event like a party in front of a patio or a restaurant, you're not paying for it; it's free. So for me, I don't see the logic of charging more money to rent a space out that's already been owned by the city. That's what I think.
yeah. No, I agree with you. I think those patios were one of the best things to come out of the pandemic.
Yeah,
Um, they they bring such a vibrant, friendly, interesting um, atmosphere to our streets, to our communities, and we should be doing everything we can to encourage them. Listen, the city has a major budget problem. I don't have to tell you that,
yeah.
but this is not the way to solve it, right? That we
No,
need to
no,
go
it's
after
ridiculous.
those big corporations that seem to have bottomless pockets.
Yeah,
These
exactly.
are the ones that should be paying more for the privilege of operating in the city. We should not be going after, listen, we all know restaurants and cafes have very slim margins. A lot of them just can't afford any additional costs, and
No,
especially not when they're still recovering from the pandemic.
yeah,
I really think it's short-sighted. I agree with you. And I hope that with time, that thinking will change. That was a very recent decision, as I think
yeah.
to raise
It's unfortunate. I
prices.
heard about it. Yeah, I talked to some people that owned restaurants, and they said they could afford it before, but now they can't anymore. But also, I think they should not only reduce the fares, but should give incentives for there's not enough stuff for small businesses. Some are favored than others, like shoppers and all these, conglomerates. That's the problem. The mom and pop stores built our city. I think there should be a book out there, like say Kensington Market, not Gage, I'm thinking of Vancouver, the Italian area. All the little communities. They people came from other countries, established the stores. That's where the community grew. And I don't know if you agree with this, but I think that they should have a recognition for establishing the community in Toronto, making the city grow to what it is. And even though stores go down, give sort of recognition or some sort of a cash incentive, like thank you for help growing our city. Like Portuguese area, like Bathurst, like some of the stores
Yeah.
there, they're all gone, right? They're all like over here, Don Mills and Lawrence. There's a hat store. The guy was there like 30 years, homemade hats he made for, and then got bought over by Don Mills. I don't know if you've been to Don Mills Center. It's like a maze driving in there. But he was there for
Mhm.
years, and he built that community up, just that area, right? And I think the government should
Yeah,
recognize that.
I do too. You know what else they should do, Phil, is they should bring back retail in neighborhoods.
Oh
Wouldn't
my
you
gosh,
love to
yes,
have a corner store on every
yeah.
corner?
Remember Wilco? I don't know how I'm aging. I'm aging myself now. Remember Wilco, Byway? Remember those stores? I don't even remember that. Yeah,
I
Byway.
mean, I didn't grow up here, Phil, so some
I
of
know.
our
I
cultural touchstones might be a
Yeah,
little
but I
different,
know
but
what you mean. Yeah, yeah. Retail, like small, like even like there was just a store called the Byway. It was in a lot of areas, like downtown core, like small areas, but still called the Byway. But retail, there's a small little, lot of grocery stores, knickknacks, and some of them are
yeah,
kind of like franchise. But there's enough. There should be more retail. Like you said,
yeah,
when you're biking, you see people on patios. It is so nice to see that, especially out this weather here. I just biked the other day down the Scarborough Town Center there, and it was just so nice to see that. Just it makes you relax. It
yeah,
makes you enjoy want to go more the next day and just entice me.
yeah,
Biking is enticing and it's good for your health all the time. And I
yep,
kind of push that all the time with everybody, my family as well.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I got 1 minute. I'm gonna say goodbye, and then we'll continue on with another show. So
All right.
thank you for coming on my first episode of my Penalty O, my first guest. I've been holding this for you because I wanted you to be my first guest. Happy Fiets, and I got you on my
Well,
website.
I'm honored, Phil. Thank you.
The honor's mine. The honor's mine. You inspired people, and I hope this conversation will inspire other people to get out there and biking. So I'm going to end it now, and we'll hang on. We'll go
I'll
on to the
meet you
next.
on the other Zoom.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, man.
Okay.
Thank you, Robin Richardson. Thank you for coming on my first show. Thank you so much. And I'll
Okay.
talk to
Thanks
you
so
then.
much, Phil. All
Welcome.
right. Bye for now.
Bye now.